Okay, so let me ask you a question because it's sort of the way we got in contact. Was a gentleman reached out asking if I would cover the idea or the phenomenon of PSSDs, post-SSRI sexual dysfunction. This is, as I mentioned at the top, I didn't know anything about this until he messaged me, and then I saw you on Tucker, and it is just horrific and borderline evil. The sort of long-lasting effects that some of these SSRIs can have on something which is very fundamental to being human, which is sexuality and creation, procreation. Tell me about PSSD.
Yes. So PSSD, post-SSRI sexual dysfunction. And so around 70% of people who get on SSRIs will develop some form of sexual dysfunction. So it's
70%.
70%. Yes, 70. So it's really high. You could almost argue that it's the primary effect of the drug. It's everyone knows it who takes them. And so this is like erectile dysfunction, decreased libido, muted orgasms, all of that kind of stuff. Now, the way it's told to patients is that this is just the price you pay for not being depressed. If you want to be on this medication, you just have to cop some of the sexual dysfunction. But don't worry, it's going to go away afterwards. Well, it turns out that's not the case. And that it's an uncommon side effect. Best estimates I've seen, it's about 1 in 216, which is a lot if you consider that 15% of the US population is on these. But it's not super common, but for some people, their sexual functioning does not return afterwards. And on top of that, they develop a toxicity where they start to have intense dissociation and brain fog. And the way they describe the emotional sort of blunting and dissociation is like, if I were to hug my kid or like my partner, I don't feel any warmth or connection. If I were to hear my favorite song from my childhood that used to give me prickles down the back of my neck, like that's gone. It's like music doesn't sound right. They almost feel like lobotomized and like disconnected emotionally from the world. And so they have sexual dysfunction. They feel lobotomized. And for many people, this doesn't go away. You know, I was kind of optimistic when I said protracted withdrawal does seem to heal within 18 months to 2 years. I'm not seeing that with PSSD. I've seen some people get better, but I also know a lot of people who've had this for 5, 6, 7, 8 years longer. There's reports of people who have had this for 20 years. So that makes me think that for a good proportion of them, it may not go away. This is crazy because this is a side effect, like a 1 in 216. Like, okay, that's not that common, but if it happens to you, it destroys your life. I mean, this is probably the first thing that everyone should be hearing about when they get put on these drugs. But no one's heard about it. And they'll go, oh, Josef, this is a conspiracy. Surely my doctor would have told me this. And then I have to tell them, well, it's in the drug labels in the EU. It's in the drug labels in Canada. Like if you look at, it's in the drug labels in Australia, in Hong Kong. If you go to UpToDate, which is kind of like the Wikipedia for like medical information in the United States, it's in there. The FDA is currently considering adding it to the labels as well. They're late to the party. They've done a terrible job at this, but it's everywhere. Acknowledged by, I would say, large, mainstream health authorities. And so it's, like I said, I think if people actually knew this, 9 out of 10 people offered these drugs would go, no, thanks. I'm not going to roll the dice on this, along with all the other problems that I had mentioned. And so it's I think it's probably the biggest untold story in psychiatry right now. It's gaining more traction. People are talking about it more and more, but everyone needs to know about it.
Yeah, some of the stories that I've heard are just super sad. There's, if anybody's interested in hearing a story, Dr. Josef was on with Tim Pool, and you were on there with a lady who was sort of advocating for this because she had gone through a horrible experience. I forget her name. I apologize, but we can link it in the show notes. A good insight into what's going on.
That was Laura.
Is she one of your patients?
No, that's a friend of mine, Laura. Okay. Laura Delano, and another good one would be Rosie's interview with Tudor Dixon. Rosie's a sufferer of PSSD. She was just on Tudor's podcast recently, and it's that would be another place you could go.